Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Multifamily Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Peterson. Today's show is going to be really neat. We're actually having a return guest that I want to say we had it really early on a couple years ago when I first started doing the podcast. And we're just going to check back in on him and what he's done in the last 2 years because it's pretty cool. So my next guest, Sterling White. He has over $26 million in assets currently that he owns, over 600 units. He's raised $11.5 million. He contributes a lot on Bigger Pockets. But he really has an amazing background story, too. So welcome to the show, brother.
Awesome. And
welcome back to the show.
You will not want to miss this. There's going to be absolute bombs and golden gems that are dropped.
That's what it's all about, baby. So, listen, before we started kind of the show, we were talking about your backstory and where you came from. And I just truly believe, man, you've got an amazing story. Just share it for us, man.
Yeah, so I had humble beginnings, as most would say. I grew up in Section 8 housing, government assistance, food stamps, and I'm sure any type of other assistance my mother didn't tell broke my brother and I about. So it's just my brother, my mother, who was a single mother. Dad wasn't around whatsoever. So anything above and beyond just the standard living, the clothes, the shoes, all that stuff, I had to figure out how to earn money. And in that environment, there was tons of illegal activity that was going around, but I didn't get associated with that. My very first product, and this is where the entrepreneurship spirit came into existence. First product was Kool-Aid. So I would take the Kool-Aid, sell it to kids throughout the school, and then Pokémon cards. And then that's when I was able to transition. Well, fast forward all the way and how I got started in real estate is 2009, where things were not going so well on the construction side, and then shifted to finding a mentor. That's when I fell in love with real estate, but not getting my hands dirty.
It wasn't when you were doing Pokemon?
No, not at all.
Man, you ever watch that video with the Pokemon video? You got the Pokemon, you want to level up?
Are you the Pokemon Go? Is that
yes? Yeah, the guy's like, hey man, what you want? I level you up. I got what you need. You trying to get that next level? Yeah, I'm doing that Pokemon.
And so through that is I was able to find a mentor who, this is where I found my very first deal, which was a single family house. I had no credit whatsoever. When you would pull my credit, it wouldn't even register. It wouldn't even come up. And then on top of that, I had negative funds in my bank account. However, I did not use that as a crutch. I found someone who I could complement their weaknesses with my strengths. Their weakness was they didn't have the ability to find deals. And that's how I was able, I bridged the gap with solving their problem, and they solved my problem, and then was able to get up to 150 single families and then transition to multifamily entirely in 2017.
You took tenacity. You said, here's what I got, right? Which is I got a lot of will and I want to get out, right? I'm ready to, I want to make it, right?
Exactly.
And then you said, you looked at your bank account, you're like, who don't got no money, right?
No credit. I actually had negative funds in my bank account because I screw it.
MasterCard, do you take Visa, right? Yet that didn't stop you, right? And when you just said it, right? And I want everybody to hear this. Is you found someone that needed you.
Exactly. And at first they weren't willing to pay me. And I said, you don't even have to pay me. I'll work with you or work for you for completely free, whatever you need. Of course, to not getting, what is that? Within reason, nothing too crazy.
Right. Listen, that nobody does that anymore, Sterling.
I agree.
They should, right? They should. You were willing to take whatever just to get in the game, my friend. Keep going, dude. This is powerful.
And that was tenfold in terms of all the experience, because I got thrown into the fire in terms of what needed to on that first single family house. I had to figure out the leasing, how to manage the transaction with the title company, was taking incoming resident. It was a lot, but I learned so much, and then I was able to apply that moving forward.
And then you repeated it.
Exactly.
And you repeated it, right? And then you start getting better. What about your confidence?
That was slowly building, but surely. So as a kid, I had some not so good. What is that word I'm looking for? Gosh, the parenting wasn't exact. So I would. I'm trying to figure out where I was wanting to go with that.
You didn't have an attaboy just saying, "Oh yeah, here's what's going on." Yeah, good job, right?
Exactly. So I had to build that through reading. So one thing that really helped me was one, cutting out all the friends that I had. Unfortunately, they were not going where I wanted to go. And then also feeding my mind positivity. So I was listening to the Earl Nightingales, the Tony Robbins, and cutting out the news. That was a huge game changer for me.
You just put your blinders on.
Exactly.
Said,
yes.
I'm going to do this. This is my chosen path. And I'm going to focus entirely 1,000% on what I want to achieve. And
all in.
Dude. To the point where all of a sudden you look up and you got 150 single family. Is that what you said, right? 150. Uh-huh. Listen, by no small feat, that is amazing. Now, but that's just the beginning, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's when it was.
Because when you had that 150, what was your confidence like then?
Now can move let's move the multifamily, and the first deal was a 46 unit. So skip from single families right to a 46 unit, and didn't even hesitate. It was more of how it could be done, not versus or not looking at it as a barrier.
Right. Because honestly, so I mean that's a long way. From zero to hero. In that, because there's different levels of zero, right? Mm-hmm. You know, and here's the great news too: is everybody starts somewhere, right? It doesn't matter where you start; it's only the matter of the way you play the game. And here's someone that's playing the game to win, folks. Just let that sink in, because I think. What do you think, mindset wise?
95%, 90 to 95% is just, I believe that so much. And what I've gained through all of those, listen to the Earl Nightingale, he was a huge influence, lead to feel. I would listen to that CD so many times that it scratched. That's how many times I would listen to it. But that helped on the mindset, is just looking at things as problems to be solved. And one thing, I could have easily have used my background and my humble beginnings as a crutch. And unfortunately, my brother did take a not so good path in life, and I could have easily have taken that, but I decided, hey, this is another path that I can go towards, and I could be an example from those kids that are in that environment.
Let me show them a way.
Exactly.
Let me give them enough crumbs that they could follow my path without a doubt and see how I did it, right? Mm-hmm. And you did it. I mean, you did it in a way. I mean, I love this story, by the way, man, because it shows the humility in how bad you wanted to get there, right? I don't think probably most people would understand how bad you really wanted to get there, but I think you wanted to get there really bad.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was fueled. It was fueled, and
almost it would break most people like to tears to understand that level of commitment, because that's what you did, dude. You don't get there by accident, right?
Yeah, and and this is another story in itself. In my college days, and this was another pivotal point in my life. But I'll give you the Spark Note version. That I was out on a canoe. And no, it was a boat. I don't know, a canoe or a boat or something. I was at a college party, had done some drinking. This was in my early 20s. And there was this beam of light. I don't know what it was, some higher being, God, whatever you want to call it. But it asked it asked me a question, Sterling, is this what you want to do with your life? So I was going a little bit into average land. But when that happened, that's when I took a complete different trajectory in life. So I believe that happens to some people, maybe at that level, but there's always that voice that wants you to do more.
How old are you, brother?
I just turned 28, October 31st.
Okay. So, and I mean, dude, I'm first of all, I kind of remember the story, but like I don't remember it like this. And first of all, I'm blown away because I truly believe. I mean, I didn't get the download from the mothership till I was 32. I mean, I was and then it took me a long time, but the same tenacity though. I feel like, and I feel like anybody that wants to be successful in this game has to have it. You got it, no doubt in my mind. I know I have it. And what is that it? It's I will never ever quit. Don't you think?
Exactly. You're giving me cold chills right now.
Right? It is.
Dropping bombs.
Because that's it. It's I will never quit. You will have to pull me out, and I'm gonna. There's no way. I'm not going to let it happen. It's that type of all in. I'm never going to quit. You will have to rip me from this. I'm going to succeed or else.
That I believe it's Will Smith that mentioned something about him and someone being on a treadmill. And he said that that person will not beat me because I will die on that treadmill.
I mean, but it sounds ridiculous, but it's not. If you look at major people, look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? He's same story, same different career, but same story, same tenacity. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to do it, right? The Rock, same story, right? This story manifests itself in so many professional people that I've seen that are trying to achieve not just the average, but the extraordinary. Continue, because we've still just got to the middle point where you decided you were going to go do multifamily and you started with a 46. How did that feel when you first got it?
That was definitely a confidence builder because this was another potential barrier that some people look at. So it was going through brokers and it was not working in terms of they would send over deals. The numbers just wouldn't pencil out. And it could have been, oh, well, just wait for a correction to happen. That's when potentially I'll be able to snag a deal. But no, I took a step back and said, hey, let me figure out how to buy these deals. Why not go direct to the owner and beat the brokers to the punch? So that was more of just mindset in looking at something as a problem to be solved and figuring it out.
So, this is going to get good because we're going to start going. We're going to start going into figure because I got a feeling, and we've already talked about this. I already know, but I'm going to cue it up for it. Is okay. So then you start realizing, hey, I've got a knack. I know how to direct market to find the sellers of these multifamily properties.
Exactly.
Right?
All starting with a cold call.
Dude.
People are a little like, calling a complete stranger. How could I do that?
This is awesome. Because isn't that what the brokers do?
Yeah, that's exactly what they do.
You're really just doing what the broker would do. That's the job, right? What do brokers do? They call owners.
Exactly.
You're really just doing this thing, except you're saying, hey, I'm the buyer. I am the guy that wants to buy.
And that's my pitch.
That's it.
well, there's more that's in
I know. Well, there's always more. We're going to get into the more here in a minute. But so you took that little concept right there and now own $26 million of assets.
That is correct.
Now, what does your family think about you now, bro?
Haven't fully grasped it, but I remember so I just closed on a 156 unit. This was about 3 weeks ago. And the most interesting thing is I used to, as a kid, visit this property and visit friends there. I would have never have thought that I'm getting cold chills just thinking about it, getting all teary-eyed. But I also drove my mother through that too. And she's just like, wow, this is cool, son. But it was just one of those things like, oh, okay, that's good job, son. It hasn't really sink in.
But you visited, you knew it as a kid, and now you own it.
That is correct.
That is so awesome, man. And so here's what I know about parents, right? you probably know this too.
I've got a 7-year-old.
Yeah, you know, uh, I'll tell. So my mother-in-law is this way for me, right? She never like, what is Kari doing? Right? My wife's Filipino, so she speaks in her Filipino accent. What is Kari doing? He's crazy, you know. And but she knows now because I give her casino money. Right?
Oh, there we go. Fair enough.
But it's really funny because most people don't. You know, when you're doing this journey, they never see the work that you really put in, right? Because if we really talk about the work, it's a lot of work, right?
Yeah, no vacations, working. Even when you're not working, you're still working because your mind's just thinking of
how to do it, right? How to
put things, exactly.
How to solve problems.
Yeah, how to make it that much more efficient, how to plug people into the system, all that.
Yeah.
Just constantly.
It's the constant, and really that's how we get better too, right? And I got a feeling that you like to play the game.
Oh yeah, for sure. I get more of a fulfillment through the actual work itself. That's how I get fulfilled. I'm not so much interested in closing on the deal. I'm more interested in the journey to get the deal. Still, I get excited about closing on the deal, but it's more of the work that gets into and leads to that point.
All right, so let's go into some tactical here then. So when you're going and finding these deals, can you give our audience some nuggets on what's your process to go find off-market deals?
So it's starting with going to a database and then pulling the list. Maybe you can get an agent to pull. So myself, I'll just give my criteria as apartments between 75 to 150 units in, let's say, the market, Indianapolis, Indiana, that have rents between 600 to 900. So very niche and targeted. And from that, I'll hand it off to a researcher to then pull that list. And then second, I'll get a cold caller that's involved, that places the calls and does qualifying on the owner. One, are they motivated to sell? Not just interested in hearing open to an offer at the right price. Second is what the condition of the property is in, and that they what's that last one? It's not ringing a bell. I'll get to it at a later point, but they do the qualifying of those, and then that's when they set the appointment with me.
So you've got a setter, we'll call him a setter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a researcher. So you have a researcher goes and gets your list and scrubs it.
Yes,
and then
exactly.
Says, hey, I think these are the most qualified candidates that look like meet your criteria. Mm-hmm. Let's go and are you doing direct mail?
Cold call.
Oh, so it's
primary. Yes.
So you're getting the list and actually getting the
contact information.
Can you give us any resources there?
Yeah, so I use, what's the main go-to is batch skip tracing is one. And if it's an LLC, this is where it gets more difficult. But there is AmericanTracers.com. And that's a source that you can use to then skip, or they do the skip tracing for you. Or you can just do go through your directory source that what is it? If it's filed in Indiana, there's a business search entity there, and then you can pull it, and then you can go to the articles of organizations.
Okay, so you can go find you either have a VA or someone like that says, "Hey, I need you to go." That's kind of like your researcher. Like I'm assuming this is a VA, virtual assistant, that says, "Okay, correct. I'm gonna You can pull a list, call it List Source or Angie's List or whatever, right?
Or CoStar. Well, CoStar's super pricey, but pricey.
Yeah. Do you own CoStar?
No, I do not.
Yeah, I don't either, but I have brokers that do, right?
Well, there you go.
So, and that's really what you were just saying. Hey, listen, if I can get a broker to call a list. Now, how do you get these brokers? You got to form relationships with them, but they'll do it if you ask them, right? Yeah, or somebody in your network will know or have it, right? Mm-hmm. We've actually thought about buying it just for internally for us, just for research, just for doing our comp sets, right?
They've got so much data.
It really is a data machine, right? But really to mine it like what you're doing is phenomenal, right? And then scrubbing that and then taking that into this batch skip tracing or the American Tracer, because basically you're saying, I want phone numbers.
Exactly. Phone numbers, emails.
And because the other part of that is it's probably more often than not a person's name, but a business.
Yes, I would say the more you go up in the unit count, the more likely it's a high probability that they won't have it in their personal name.
But a lot of times, like I don't have things in my personal name, but if you finally got it and you got if you got my number, you're calling my cell phone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And man, and I don't normally answer, like, but some people do, right? And then, but I got an email yesterday from a guy. I have a property that I've not thought about selling, but it just came in the right time, the right place, and he said, "Hey, I work. I represent this group. We're buying. I don't know if he's a broker or not, but I sure gave him my T12 and a rent roll. Let me know, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's essentially what you're doing, is just going straight to the people, right?
Yeah, and
That's
this
awesome.
is where the real absolute, and I use the word game changer so many times because I feel like I've experienced these pivotal moments, and this all comes from just constantly learning different industries, how they do things. So that infrastructure that I mentioned to you is I got from a book. For the longest time, I was doing all of that, and then
Right.
I read this book, and it was a guy in
What's the name of the
sales.
book?
Predictable Revenue. That's the book. And it was a VP of sales in Salesforce. And they have a very similar structure, but it's someone who does the researching for the people who would be interested in Salesforce, their platform, someone who sets the appointments. And then you have the person that's in my position that does the closing. So I
Right.
just replicated that. And what was your question? Oh, when someone's not interested, this is where the whole follow-up comes into play. Instead of just pounding them with constant cold calls, I implement direct mail on top of that as well.
Right. So you got a drip system, follow up system that you make sure that, hey, we're going to get back in touch with you no matter what, and then
Exactly.
so that's front of mind, and then 'cause you never know that they may not be ready today, but 2 months later you never know, right? Like, just, it's life, it happens. It's kind of the same scenario that they're doing in single family. You're just kind of reverse engineering using either a list, or actually using one of the best lists, which is CoStar, because it's a lot cleaner, and it probably already comes with a lot of the information that you need. Because I get calls all the time when I close a property. You get them too, from some researcher saying, "Hey, we saw that you just closed this property." I'm like, "How the hell you get my cell phone number?"
I agree. Yes, and,
Right?
and they definitely try and dig. And one thing I wanted to mention with, and you hit the nail on the head with it comes down to timing. Because one thing that I also implement is I'll send the Rubik's cube to an owner that has a small note that says, "Hey, let's figure this out." And that's one way to follow up. And then I'll also do another follow up and says, "Hey, I just wanted to touch base. I happen to drive by your property. Were you able to solve that Rubik's cube?" And yeah.
Oh, so you just hit him. Hold on, you just hit him three ways.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
you did phone call, direct mail back to him with a raised envelope. Okay, that's a ninja piece right there. Anything when you have something in an envelope and it doesn't conform to the standard, that's people are going to open that up, right?
Exactly.
And you got one of those tiny little Rubik's cubes. That's so cool. Where did you come up with that idea?
I feel like I got it from somewhere, but I don't know.
Right.
So maybe I did make it up.
Copy
I
your way
don't
to
know.
success, brother.
But I want to give
Right?
kudos to someone out there if I did happen. And another one is I haven't done this yet, but a small shoe, and send it to an owner and says, "Hey, look at it, get my foot in the door."
But humor works. Am I right?
Yes, it does. And it's just staying top of mind, because the worst thing you want to do is just steadily keep hitting the owner with the same pitch, and then they'll just block you. But if you're being creative and being value based, one thing that I've done too is some owners that are less sophisticated, I mentioned, "Hey, have you considered, or have you heard of a 1031 exchange? Or I see that your parking lot, you're looking for a vendor. Could I help you out with that?" So just things like that,
Oh
building a
wow.
relationship.
Yeah, just adding value, right? I mean, just really, and just saying, "I'm here. I'm here if you're ready," right? Let me know. And so, I mean, how long do you think it's taken you to really go from there with that first deal? Is that in the last 2 years or last
With the
four?
46 unit,
Yeah.
20 2.5 years.
So 2.5 years from zero multifamily assets to over 26 million.
That is correct.
I
Oh,
would say
well,
that's pretty damn successful, bro. Right?
well,
Now,
it's all belief.
it is belief, and it's some work behind it. Some work
That is
behind it.
true.
Let's not. It wasn't all easy, right?
No, no law of attraction and just thinking that or vision, which it does work when you have the vision, but as you alluded to, you have to put in the work as well.
Yeah, and really it is about like trying just to make sure that you're doing all the right things, pushing it forward, right? Um, so let's talk about this too. The transition from single family, multifamily. Where do you go? What's your what is Stuart's end goal?
Sterling,
I
I've
mean
been called
Sterling.
Stuart before.
Sorry.
Luckily, it wasn't Stanley. We're golden. End goal, that is a great question. And I would just say my main purpose and my why is just to be an ideal for the individuals that came from the environment that I came from. And at some point, I would love to get into the development, so building ground up. But that's way further along the line. I'm just more focused on taking things a year by year basis and just giving back.
What's a good year look for Sterling?
Uh, I would say this year the goal was 500 units, and just ended up not hitting that by just over 100. So it's close, but that was that goal on the asset side.
Yeah. So I always find everybody. Some people say doors. I tend to say deals now. Like I'm trying to do 1 or 2 to 3 deals, right? 1 deal at least. 2 deals. 2 deals would be great. And then I don't even care what size they are, whether they're big or small. Because for me, it's about just the journey, right? And I don't want to overstress myself. I want slow, steady growth, but I always like to hear other people's with their growth patterns. But now let's go back in. So I understand but what's your why at this point? Because like you probably still don't have enough assets to. I mean, you're going on the right track, but you're like you're not made. Even people say, oh, 26 million. That doesn't mean you're making all the money in the
Not at all.
world, right?
Agreed.
But it means you've got a base, and then you do this another 5 years, and then it's a whole different level,
Correct.
right?
I would say I'm just about there because I'm a minimalist. I
Yeah,
don't, yeah. So it really doesn't take much for me to be financially free. I
yeah,
could be financially free on less than 36,000 because I'm
yeah.
that just under, yeah.
So you're there now. Then
Yeah.
would you say, yeah, you're there for sure, right? Like my life, I'm good, right? So I find that once you get to that point where everything's kind of squared away in your life, there's got to be a different why that drives you, right? Now I understand the education piece of it, right? And teaching and getting out and being a public figure and sharing the crumbs. But what I want to get at, like, tell me what drives you now.
I would say it still goes back to that environment.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of anger and a chip on my shoulder of
You want to show the world?
I would say so. I believe in that case because when I was growing up, I didn't have the best of environment. I had just unfortunately my mother was telling me that I wasn't going to be anything. Teachers were telling me I wasn't going to be anything, and I still have that. That's a lot of the fuel. I
Yeah.
know I shouldn't carry too much
No,
anger, but
listen,
there,
I have the fuel too. I have that fuel. That's my rocket fuel, a little bit of my rocket fuel too. I had a teacher tell me that I would show up with them. I wanted to be a baseball player, right? And they said, based on the odds, it'll never happen for you. And
wow,
I was like, what do you mean, right? And who are you to step on my dreams, right? And you don't know who I am. And I find I was actually at a mastermind where they made me cry, right? Because they were like, Corey, why are you driving so hard? Because I'm a driver, man. Like you're a driver. I'm a
hmm
driver. And they're like, you've already won. You don't understand, Corey. You've already won. And they're making me say it and scream it, right? Because my wife was sitting there crying because she's like, you work too much. Because I talk about sunsets and palm trees, but Corey works a lot. And because I love it, but also I'm driven that way. And
hmm
so I've had to really work on me to say, this is why I always ask this question, right? I like kind of exploring a little bit because for me, I had to change my why because it would drive me to always go 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 go, and
Understood.
I forgot to enjoy the journey.
Understood. And
Right?
that's one thing that because I'm a part of a mastermind. It's through entrepreneur organization, but becoming more around it. And I believe one thing that I have neglected is being more family oriented because I was more on the go, go, go side on the business. And that's really helped shine some light on it. But I think I also have a mindset that where I am is I still feel, well, I don't even, where I'm at now is I've brainwashed myself that it's just getting started. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but I believe that's also what keeps me going.
Yeah, no, I mean there is no right answer here, right? It's just like, but it's always good to put the mindset. I like to, for my audience, it's a journey, right? It really is, and it has different cycles, different ebbs and flows, and but it's one of the greatest games you could ever play, in my opinion, right?
I agree.
You know, because it really can give you time and money, and the ability to kind of say, yeah, no,
Yeah, if I want to just go to Miami right now or go to Dubai, I just go. And people don't have that. I mean, and when I hear people say those things to me and they say, hey, I wish I was an entrepreneur to where I can do things at my leisure. I'm like, you may want to second think that. But we've put in the work to be able to have the freedom that we have.
yeah, it really is kind of unique, right? And now, when you look at your neighbors and your surrounding, like this is what is that like? What's the difference between how you think and how people that are around you think?
I really, and this is something that I love the mindset that I've recently taken on is the value of time, meaning that I outsource my laundry, my grocery shopping, and then the cleaning of the apartment that I'm in, but just valuing that much more, and then getting people underneath me to do the things that I'm not so interested in doing, even in my business, to push myself up that much higher. But I think the value of time is the biggest thing, meaning that if I'm at Kings Island, I will pay, let's say, $30 or $40 more for the fast pass, but other people will save on that and they'll be in line for 2 hours and I'll be in line for just 10 minutes. But it's worth, so things like that, I believe I've picked up.
Yeah, no, I totally believe in buying for paying for time, right? Paying for speed, paying for even in my education. Even in my education, I've always felt like being in masterminds, being in one of these groups, just like you're in these groups. There's a reason why successful people go and be in these and pay to be in groups because it helps you become a better business partner, business leader, thought leader. Whatever it is. I think there's lots of other people that if you surround yourself with sharp people, it
Hmm.
rubs off.
Yeah. And you unlock things. This is one thing I love too, is those limiting beliefs, like the time thing. It never really registered that I heard Grant Cardone, I know, love him or hate him, some people out there, but is he talks about how rich people buy time. For the longest time, it didn't register, but just keep hearing things like that on a repetitive basis and being around others that are wanting to achieve it, as you mentioned, too, rubs off on
Yeah. So when you first like started getting those pieces done, like in your home life, right? Like you said, hey, I'm not gonna do my laundry anymore. How
you.
did that
Yeah.
feel? How did that feel?
Ah, it's I don't even know where to start with that. I don't even book my own flights anymore because I outsource. Yeah, I would just say those things like that have just freed up my time to do things that I truly enjoy. So instead of doing laundry, I can spend more time with my little 7-year-old
Put it
angel.
this way, right? Saturday, right? Um, you've been working, and all of a sudden, like you could sit there and do the laundry, clean your apartment, yada yada yada, or you just like I'm gonna go hang out with my daughter, and then someone's gonna do all this stuff.
Exactly.
Priceless, right?
I
Yeah,
agree.
man. It's funny what they say money can't buy happiness, and they're probably right, but it can pretty damn come close.
What is that quote? I don't know who it was exactly, but they says I've been a poor man and I've been a rich man, and I'll pick being a rich man any day over being a poor man.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But it doesn't change your thinking and who you are. So what I've
I
realized from
agree.
you too, like I'm listening to you, and there's still a humbleness about you, and that is real, and that comes from, hey, I take it like I don't think you ever want to forget where you came from,
No, not at all.
right? It's helped shape you, huh?
Hmm.
Yeah, I can tell. So if you like last kind of remarks, if you could leave my investors with anything, what couple pieces of wisdom, what would you drop on them?
I would say one thing is we've only got so much time on this earth. And one thing that I've learned from just the readings that I've seen is it's worth going for whatever. I know that it may be risky on the other end. You may have to jump off the cliff and then have to assemble the plane on the way down, but it's it's completely worth it because at the end of the day, you're, let's say, 100 years old, you're on your deathbed. The worst thing that I've experienced from my readings is regret versus you'll regret more what you didn't do versus what you did do.
So live with the intensity and ferocity, and just put yourself out there. Be vulnerable. And
Exactly.
be willing to fail, right?
Yeah, and it's more just, and I could tell you another story about. Well, I've got so many stories, but one quick one to finalize things. Spark Notes. So I read the book 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, and he talks about picking a big goal that scares the absolute crap out of you. And so I picked the world's fastest fireman carry mile. Fast forward, I'm training a year and a half for it. Day of the event, newscasters, family, everyone comes out. I fell complete flop. 800-meter mark, I dropped the guy, which is halfway. But the biggest thing for me that I learned from that, this was another unlock that, hey, failing on the scale is not so bad. It was only just feedback.
That's awesome. It was just feedback. Cool, brother. Listen, first of all, guys, hopefully this has been a real episode. This is probably the most in depth, no hype, just talking about the way life works, and we've also uncovered a couple really ninja nuggets in there, some really good takeaways. He shared with us some of his sources, and I think thank you for that. By the way, very very giving. Love that. If people want to get a hold of you, where do they find you at, brother?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn under Sterling White. You can also biggerpockets.com. Don't ever hesitate if you have any questions I can be of assistance to slide into the DM, which is direct message. Just letting you all know.
Oh man, dude, I've really enjoyed this show, guys. Listen, Sterling is a great example that if the power of our minds is truly, it is the biggest tool that we have. And what's sad is that most people don't understand it, right? Because if you believe it, I truly believe you can achieve it, and your paradise is possible. Take care.